is as real as it gets.
This is Nash Gruner, the son of Olivia Gruner, and you are listening to the UCW radio show, In Your Face.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
You're listening to UCW Radio.
In Your Face.
Give it to me, baby.
All right, welcome to the UCW radio show, and of course we have another great guest that's lined up to come on the show in a minute. I just want to remind all of our listeners to make sure to catch not only the UCW radio show, but also our my other show, Money Never Sleeps. This is when we're talking about anything that moves money anywhere in the world, and it's a pretty great show, if I do say so myself. We have a lot of different guests on there from the world of real estate, finance, from all over the world. So if you're looking for something of that nature, this is a show for you, and we keep it interesting. And also make sure to check out our digital magazine, Money Never Sleeps, and we're also going to be releasing the UCW magazine. We're going to be returning with that soon in the next couple of months, and we're going to be featuring all our great guests that we have on the show, and do some interviews and things of that nature, and do some profiling on there. So, you know, if you've been a guest on the show, you may find yourself right there in the pages of the UCW magazine. Now, and you can find that, of course, on UCWmagazine.com. Okay, now with all that said, what I want to do, I want to get to bring our guest on, because this guy is great. He's not only a comedian, he's a writer, he's an actor. I'm sure he's going to be going into directing and doing all this fun stuff out there in Hollywood. But he's been doing it for a while, and he was on Last Comic Standing as well. Okay, so without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dante the Comic to the show. All right, Dante, welcome to the UCW radio show. How are you?
I'm great, pal. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for coming on. I know it's been you've been on the road busy, and we've been kind of jammed up over here, but it's good that we're able to get this done finally.
Yes, I'm glad, man. And this is my first day back. I've been gone for 3 weeks, so it worked out perfect.
Yeah, and that way I can break up your relaxation.
Yeah. It was not relaxing today. All I've done is work in my yard, so.
Yeah, but you know what? You have the love of your life there, so that's what matters, right?
I do. I'm a lucky man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and luckily she was with me most of the time that I was gone for those 3 weeks. Her name is Rebecca Cochin World, and she is a comic like myself, an actor, and anyway, we end up going traveling on the road together all the time, so it's great.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic, and I know she's funny, but guess what? Today, this show is not about Rebecca. We'll bring her on another time. We want to talk about you. You know, I mean, she's fantastic and everything, but I want our listeners to get a good idea of what you've done and what you've been doing. You know, so let's crank back a little bit. You're a comedian. What got you involved in comedy in the first place?
All right. I actually got involved in stand-up when I was about 8 years old. A friend of mine named Jared McQuarrie. We both lived on a military base growing up, and USO would come through with shows. And I was already a fan of stand-up. Like, I had all the Bill Cosby albums. I knew them by heart. And then I saw these improv people come through, and a comedian. I can't remember his name. It was a black guy with a puppet who opened for Ray Charles. And between those two acts, especially the improv group, I turned to my friend and I said, let's be stand-up comics. And so we wrote a routine. We had a school talent show. We did it there. We won. They sent us to other schools to perform. We started charging for kids to see us in the backyard.
At 8 years old, you were charging kids to come see you?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
You're an entrepreneur. Good.
Absolutely. And so I pursued acting and stand-up I mean, really in the only way I could, which was performing to other kids. And so finally my parents moved me to San Diego when I was about 12, and I saw that there was, the Comedy Store was there. I kept seeing all these signs for the Comedy Store, the Improv. And I would call and they said, you had to be 21. So what ended up happening was, at about 1986, I met another friend named Gerald Wolfe, and we were in high school, and I formed a comedy team with him called Dante and the Wolf. And he was, I think, a year and a half older than me. I was probably like 15, 16, I don't know. And we started going to the Comedy Store, and I noticed that a friend of ours from high school, his name's Faison Love, and he's famous now. He's in all the Jon Favreau movies. He's the big fat black guy in Elf. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah. Okay, I know who you're speaking about. Actually, I know who he is.
He's a lot of people know him from Friday and other movies. But anyway, he was a friend of ours in high school, and he was the doorman. And I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, I'm 16. He's only like 19 or 18. And I was like, this guy's got a fake ID. So I said to him, I was like, Faison, look, man, tell them that I am, 19, even though I was like 16. And in 2 years, when I turn 18, in their eyes, I'll be 21. And so he did. And so me and the Wolf, we would have to run in, perform, and run out. 2 years later, everyone celebrates my 21st birthday, even though I'm not. And so from 16 on, I've been a stand-up comic.
That's funny. That's fun. Well, you made your own luck with that.
Absolutely, man. It was something I just couldn't wait. I even told my parents I was getting a fake ID, and I felt bad because I never told the other comics that I had worked with for so many years in San Diego until years and years later. I told them, and I felt bad. I was nervous too, especially the manager, but it was something I just had to do. I wanted to do. I needed to do. I couldn't stand not being a comic.
Well, look, you going out there and having that passion. And most people, to have that passion with anything they do is an amazing thing because it's not work. You love what you do, so it's a part of your life, and
right.
for you to go to that extent and do that just showed your commitment to yourself and what you love to do.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, I do. I agree with you. It's, people go, oh boy, that's such hard work. And I'm thinking, no, it's not. I'm not digging ditches. No. I found a way to tell jokes to people and make a living and go on vacation every day of my life.
Yeah. And the thing is, you mentioned hard work. A lot of people say, certain things are hard work. You know what hard work is? When you're lifting bricks, so you got the wheelbarrow, you're breaking your back.
You're right.
That's hard work.
Right.
This stuff is a privilege. This is a privilege.
I agree. What I did in my yard today was hard work. I was in the sun for like 6 hours. I was digging, I was lifting, I was carrying, I was throwing away, chopping, all that stuff. And there's guys that do that 5-6 days a week or more.
Yep.
And it's like, that's work. That's real work.
Yeah, but in your house, you do it in the backyard. At least you come home and your girl has some iced tea waiting for you.
Right. She must have made me 5 lemonades today. It was great.
Way to go, Rebecca. You're doing good out there. Keep this guy in a line, boy. Oh, wow. So now, when you started moving forward, when you actually started getting gigs, when did that happen? When you started kind of venturing out of the club that you were at?
All right. So here's what happened. My very first money I ever got was me and the Wolf. We won a comedy contest for MTV. And I think they gave us $25 and a weekend resort, which we never took. We should have, but we didn't. And then,
well, you weren't old enough; you couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's probably right. So then he and I broke off as a team because he went off to college and wanted to pursue law and everything else, and we still keep in touch. But so I left San Diego when I really turned 21, moved to LA. I started running a room at the Comedy Store. That room got very popular with black people, and BET was starting a new show called Comic View, and they had come out to my room and seen me, and they wanted me to be the first white guy on BET, and so I couldn't wait. It was my first big TV gig. I had done some movies that got me into the Screen Actors Guild, but nothing was stand-up. Mm-hmm. So this was great. I get on BET, and next thing you know, they're filming new shows like every 6 months.
Yep.
So every 6 months throughout the 90s, I was filming new stand-up sets and building up a huge black fan base. They even gave me a sitcom. It was sort of like Taxi, but in a hotel, where, you know, there's like 5 main cast members, and we all run the hotel, and big stars came in every week. And my friend Richard Pryor, that was his last thing he ever did, was be on that sitcom. And Paul Mooney was one of the writers, and it was a crazy 90s for me. And I would fly all over the country and perform to, like, you know, 2,000-seat theaters and 5,000-seat theaters. And we went to England, and I started playing for the U.S. troops more because I had already started in San Diego doing it all the time. But now that I had some fame, I was hitting up all the bases all over the world. And that's sort of what really started it all, was BET.
Yeah, well, BET, I mean, Robert Johnson, you know, when he ran BET, when he owned it, he did a lot of amazing things. And honestly, I don't know if you've ever met him, but
I have not.
He is the most humble person that I've ever met. And it showed with the network that he developed, and it was great. I mean, for you to get a chance like that, that's like the reverse. You did the reverse.
I know, and people listening, we probably have to explain to them. Even though my name is Dante, I'm Italian, not black. So that was sort of a big deal for them to put me on there. And I ended up actually winning the most BET Comic View Awards out of anyone of all time. Like, I hold the record for it. It's crazy. Wow.
But, you know, it's that opportunity to do something different. Right. You know, and kind of, you know, break out of the box. And, you know, look, I'm happy that BET did that because it allows you to do what you're doing now, which is fantastic.
I agree. I was very, very lucky to get all of that.
Yeah, and you traveled all over the world, and, you know, then you kind of got into doing films, and we're going to talk about your film projects and everything when we come back from the break we're going to take in a minute. But you know, just having the ability to do what you did, and you created it. If you created your own luck, because if you didn't make that move and go into the comedy club and you waited till you were 21, you never would have had that opportunity.
You're right. And so much of stand-up is, you know, they always say it's about being in the right place at the right time, and I fully believe that. I fully believe that because, you know, the other saying, out of sight, out of mind, couldn't be more true. I had a friend who made a movie, and he put one stand-up comic in it, and he could have put a lot of comics in it. And I said to him, you know, you and I have been friends forever. Why didn't you even ask me? He goes, because I hadn't seen you in forever. He goes, I had only seen this one guy. He said he wanted to be in my movie, so I thought of him. He was in the right place at the right time. Yeah. I was out of sight, out of mind.
And then that's what happens. When you're not relevant or you're not in front of people, they're not thinking about you.
That's true.
And then
it is true.
But you can't be everywhere at once, so opportunities come.
You can't.
Yeah, opportunities are there every day, you know. It's just having your eyes open to seize them and just move forward with it, which is what you did. You know, so now you were traveling all over. You did you got the BET gig, and you were doing quite well with that. What happened after that? What was the next stage?
So here's what happened. So my BET fame gets so big that it starts to feel funny that I'm not getting, you know, all the auditions I'm getting are for the black white guy, or, you know what I mean, like the white guy who thinks he's black. And I just thought I better switch things up.
Oh, so they kind of pigeonholed you into that character.
Right. Hollywood had sort of pigeonholed me. Everything I was getting was sort of the hip hop white guy.
But that wasn't your persona. That's not your persona.
Right, not my persona, but because I was on BET, that's what happened. Mm-hmm. And so what I decided to do was sort of take a break from the black rooms and Comic View and all of that. And I ended up having a child with my ex-wife. Mm-hmm. And so I started a comedy club or a room, but it was like 4 or 5 days in the valley right next to my house. And this bar let me run comedy there. And so I was able to develop material almost every night. and meet this whole new group of comedians and things like that. And I started going on the road into different clubs, and then I auditioned for Last Comic Standing, and I didn't get it. And it broke my heart.
What year was that? What year was that when you did that?
That was year 3.
Okay.
Season 3, because my friend Alonzo Bowden, I believe, was he on 1 or 2? Oh, he was on 2, I think, season 2.
That's when Last Comic Standing wasn't what it is right now. That's when it was kind of like, you know, they did some silly stuff on there.
Right, it was a reality show. They lived together. So I watched it the first season, and I was jealous because friends of mine were on it, and I thought I should be on it. Season 2, I didn't audition. I didn't even know about it. More friends of mine were on it. Season 3, I was actually wrong. It was actually the best of. It was season 1 against season 2. Season 4, I auditioned, and I didn't make it. So season 5 is coming along, and I said to Alonzo Bowden, I said, give me some advice for auditioning. And he said, well, I can tell you this. Most comics that audition for the show, they do a 3-minute bit, and they don't make it. He goes, my best advice to you is go through all of your jokes and find as many one-liners that make your 3-minute bits all come together, and just do those one-liners, because what they want to see is you tell 7 jokes every minute instead of, 1 joke in 3 minutes. So I auditioned season 5, and I made it to the night where you get to come back.
Right.
And I won something called the Audience Favorite Award. And so that meant that I had to go through to the semifinals, whether the producers wanted me or not. And then I go to the semifinals, and I won the Audience Favorite Award again, which made me a cast member for the show. And I was on season 5 of Last Comic Standing, and it was great.
Oh, nice, nice. So you had to go through all of that, and all that stuff, was it aired before you went into season 5?
Hello?
Yeah, was it aired before you went into season 5? All the things that you did before, was that aired before you went into season 5?
Correct. So how it works is we film all that stuff in like January, February, and then we go live in the summer. So between February and like July or June, we couldn't tell people that we were on the show. Mm-hmm. Even though hundreds of people were at the taping that saw us, we couldn't say that we had made it, because when people watch it, they don't know who the top 10 are until it goes, live in the summer. But we already knew.
Okay, all right. And now it's different, because now with social media, you can't hide anything.
Correct. Right. And back then it was just MySpace, and, I had to be real careful. Even the first thing I posted about, I made it to the night round, some lawyer from NBC called me and said, take it down right now.
Oh.
And it was a scary process, man. For those 5 months, I was being followed. I would see people in the audience at every show I was at that I recognized. And so they must have been sending people out to make sure you didn't say anything or,
it's like,
do anything wrong.
It's like that paranoia set in.
Yeah, but what's weird is I had a bit of a group that was around me at the time that was helping me write and prepare for the show, and they were like, man, that same dude keeps coming to your show. And we wouldn't even really publicize where I was going next. It was almost like we were being followed. It was weird.
It's like that scene out of Goodfellas when Ray Liotta's driving down the road and he sees a helicopter.
Yes, that's what I felt like. Just like that, where I kept looking up and seeing some helicopter following me.
Yeah, minus the pills.
It must have been true, because I kept getting calls from lawyers saying, just make sure you don't say this, don't say that. I'm thinking, man, I am being watched.
Yeah, well,
because it's a game show. They have to watch you, I guess.
Well, they need the ratings, they need the surprise factor, everything else. And again, back then it's different than now. Right now with Twitter, Facebook, everything else, there's no hiding. Right. You can't hide. So
this was like 6.5 years ago. And also back then, our season was the first season where there was no house. We were the first ones where there was no reality show component to it. It was just challenges and stand-up, period. There was no living together, which I kind of missed out on. I kind of wish we had done that, because we didn't get to know each other, and everyone was very, very paranoid and weird with each other in the hotel. fights were breaking out, not physical ones, but yelling at each other over nothing.
No, I can,
you know, just
I can imagine. I definitely can imagine.
Everyone was, highly stressed out and weird, and
well,
I never yelled at anybody. As a matter of fact, I would show up with I came to the hotel with $500 in groceries and board games, thinking I'm going to be friends with these people while I lived there.
Yeah,
no one wanted to hang out with anybody.
You're lucky they didn't jack you up for your food.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, but what we're going to do, Dante, we're going to take a quick break because we have to take a break right now. But we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about Last Comic Standing, and then we're going to go into what your projects you're doing now. You have some films, you have some stuff going on, and I want to touch on that. So I want you to stick with us, and I want our listeners to stick with us. So we're going to be right back on the UCW radio show with Dante the Comic.
This is Chef Gavin Murphy with your 1-minute healthy cooking tip. A lot of people are more health conscious nowadays, especially when it comes to food. But did you know there are a lot of hidden calories in, of all things, salad dressing? They're chock full of added sugars. But don't fret, I've got you covered. Try this quick and delicious salad dressing recipe. Grab a small Tupperware container with a lid and add a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar, 2 tablespoons of whole grain or Dijon mustard, a teaspoon of organic honey, pinch of salt and pepper, and 3/4 cup of olive oil. Pop the lid on and give it a good old shake. This is spot on for a beautiful summer salad and will keep in the fridge for weeks. For more healthy cooking tips and info, go to gavinmurphy.com.
Thousands of years we circled around the sun. Hi, my name is Peter May of London Central Properties, and we're based in Cavendish Square, which is close to Regent's Park. The majority of my work experience has been in sales, in particular the hotel and hospitality industry, both in the UK and overseas. London Central Properties is an established company with a global presence and a high reputation for service and discretion. We specialise in the sale of high-value, off-market apartments, houses, hotels and investments. We have recently opened a new division specialising in the provision of service departments which cover the full spectrum from budget to exclusive. These apartments are suitable for both leisure and corporate clients and are located in the key areas of London, including Mayfair, Knightsbridge, Kensington and Bayswater. For further information, please refer to our website, which is www.londoncentralproperties.com. We have now established an exclusive partnership with the host of Money Never Sleeps, Mr. Louis Velazquez.
All right, we're back on the UCW radio show. We're here with Dante the Comic. He has not left. I thought he was going to dodge and weave and get out of this whole deal, but he's still here with us. And what we're talking about,
tried.
Yeah, you did try, but we grabbed you. So now we were talking about Last Comic Standing before the break, and you were going to the hotel and you were trying to be everybody's buddy, but that didn't work out.
It does not work out. As a matter of fact, people were actually really mean to me on that show, and some of them have made up to me and we're friends now, and others we've just never spoken since. They've just very strange people.
Yeah.
And they get mad at me over nothing, like my material. I think what it was they were upset that everywhere I performed, I was getting standing ovations and winning the audience favorite awards. And, I do impressions in my act, and, they would call me a hack for doing impressions and things like that, and it rolled off my back. I could care less what they thought of me.
But wait, they called you a hack for doing impressions? That's a part of comedy.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's a part of your bit when you're on stage. Anyone. You see Chris Rock do it. You see, when Richard Pryor was doing it, Eddie Murphy. You have to do impressions. How are people going to get the picture?
Yeah, you know what? I got a good piece of advice from Richard Pryor one time. He and I were in the back room of a Comedy Store, and we were pretty good buddies at the time, and I was going to ask him if I could try out a new joke on him, and he goes, "Have you tried it out in front of audiences?" And I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "Do they laugh?" And I said, "Yes, they laugh." He goes, "Then what the hell are you asking me for?"
Nice.
He goes, "The only thing that matters in comedy is making them laugh." And I got it. And so if somebody tells me you're a hack because you make people laugh with impressions, I just go, well, I respect Richard Pryor's opinion over yours.
Yeah, well, I mean, if people think if they're having those thoughts, the only thing that comes to mind to me is a little bit of jealousy. You can't
exactly.
Yeah, because you can't. If you're a baseball player, somebody's playing better than you. You don't sit there and get mad at them. You say, okay, you know what? How can I learn from them? How can I be better at what I do? Maybe I can learn from this guy. That's a smarter move.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless you're jaded, and that's the way life is, and that's what happens in entertainment. People get jaded.
And some of the ones, there's one guy in particular, and I won't say his name, but I've tried to talk to him since, and he's just always acted like that, just miserable. And maybe it's just a miserable person. Who knows?
Hey, maybe he goes home and his wife makes his life as beautiful as it is.
Right. Who knows?
Who knows?
I'm a lucky man. I'm very happy.
Well, you are, and here we go. And this whole show leads back to Rebecca. What is going on, Dante? What's going on? We should just bring her on the show and just have a part of this conversation.
Exactly. I'll go bring the phone into the shower. I think that's where she is right now.
Oh, this is not that type of show, Dante. We said we were going to keep everything clean.
Wait, the shower's clean.
Yeah, it is. That's true. So, tell us. Maybe you can give us. You you connected with Richard Pryor, and you were friends with them. What other big comics did you actually work with, or did you become pretty good friends with as you were moving forward?
I'm very lucky. I started in the '80s, and like everyone was around.
That's why I asked the question, because of the time frame. Because you had a lot of great ones.
Some guy who runs a club in Dallas showed me lineups from when I was playing his club in San Diego. And, at the time, half of these people weren't famous. But he's like, look, you opened for Roseanne Barr. You opened for Gilbert Gottfried. You opened for this person. I was like, I did? I remember the Gilbert Gottfried one because that was funny. He actually walked a crowd one night. He started doing Bela Lugosi impressions and never stopped because people were booing him. And he thought, okay, I'll do more. Instead of switching gears, he just tortured them till I was the last person in the building.
That is hilarious.
It was hilarious. But Kinnison took me under his wing the minute I moved to L.A. and became a good person to me. I don't want to say we were best friends or anything, because we weren't, but he was really, really nice to me all the time, and he was a good friend to me. And he made me feel special, and, a year after becoming his friend, he died, and it broke my heart. And Andrew Dice Clay and I became really good friends. And I do a great impression of Dice, and he would always make me do it for other people. And one night, some girl came to the Comedy Store and was like, I want to see a star. And this guy pointed, and he goes, well, Andrew Dice Clay is right behind you. Well, she didn't know who stars were, because she turned to me and went, oh, I'm a big fan of yours. So the whole night, I'm doing Andrew Dice Clay. I'm like, oh, that's nice, lady. Thank you so much. You're great. And I would turn to Dice and go, Dante, go get me a soda. This went on for hours, and of course he's like laughing the entire time.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So, and then Jamie Foxx and I actually went to college together, and I helped him get into the Comedy Store down there, and
look at him now; he's a superhero.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, but, I could probably list another 100 celebrities that, some of them we just started out as friends coming up together. I remember when I was a doorman at the Comedy Store, it was me, Carlos Mencia, and Eddie Griffin were the doormen at the time. And now, they both have pretty good careers.
Well, you're not doing too shabby yourself, Dante. And the reason,
thank you, buddy.
Yeah, and the reason I want you to touch on this, because I want listeners, if you're a comedian and you're listening to this, and you're just starting out, understand as you're doing stuff. I don't care what you do in life, you never know who you're going to be building up with. So when because you were there, you're meeting this one, that one, and at the time, I mean, look, let the truth be told, they were nobodies, and then all of a sudden they became somebodies. But if you treat someone with the respect, and you kind of have just that respect in the beginning, okay, and you build that friendship, you never know where things can bloom to. And
you never know. That is so correct. I mean, Chris Tucker was an open micer when I first met him, and within a year he was making millions and millions of dollars. And we haven't talked in years, but I'm sure we're still friends because we were really good friends at the time.
Yeah, I had his brother on the show.
Other people,
and he was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was speaking. He was talking. Well, he's doing his own thing too. His brother's doing his own thing, but he made mention of Chris and a couple of things. But he's a good guy from what I understand.
Yeah, and Chris was always a good guy, and then there's people you don't know that who they are. You help people out, and you're not necessarily friends with them. But here's a good example. I do warm up for TV shows and movies. So anytime a TV show is got a live audience, I go in there and I, play with the audience and I tell them jokes. Anytime a movie has like 1,000 to 20,000 extras, they don't pay them, so they hire me to entertain them and give them prizes. One day I'm working on a Nick Cannon movie, and I knew who Nick Cannon was, but I didn't know that I knew him. Mm-hmm. Well, usually when the stars walk out, I announce them to the crowd. I'm like, hey, you guys, you've been waiting to see so-and-so. Here's Nick Cannon. Nick grabs the mic from me, and he goes, I hope you guys know who's entertaining you right now. He's like, this guy is one of my idols. This guy was one of the only people who, when I would sit out in front of the Comedy Store, he would give me advice. He would go get me sodas and bring them out to me and, talk to me and encourage me. And I just thought, I barely remembered him. Like, once I saw him and I was like, oh my God, that was the kid. I went, oh yeah, okay, I remember Nick Cannon. But I wasn't thinking about, this is Nick Cannon once he got famous. I didn't even know until he said it.
Right. Well, you know what? That just shows your character. That just shows how you are as a person. And I always say that, a person's character shows just on an everyday basis. If you open your heart to someone, you didn't know him, but you knew he was out there, and you kind of, look back at your life and you said, you know what? I was that kid.
Yep, I sure was.
Yep.
I sure was, and I always wanted big comics to talk to me, and I felt like until I gained their respect, none of them would talk to me.
Yeah, and little did you know.
That's right.
Yeah, you just got to...
Little did I know.
Yeah, you put yourself out there, and you worked side by side, and you became friendly with some of the best in the business. And I didn't want, and just for our listeners' sake, it wasn't a matter of name dropping. I wanted people to understand the type of talent that you actually worked side by side with, because a lot of these guys are not here now.
I know.
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
sad.
Man.
But those were legends. Sam Kinison, Richard Pryor. These were guys that paved the way. For guys like you, Dante.
Yeah, and it's a little sad. Some of the younger listeners that you have may not even know who Richard Pryor or Kinison are, because I'll say that to a comic who's in their 20s, and they're like, who? I'm like, how do you not know them? You need to know them. Because everybody at my level, and I'm not that old, I'm barely 40, but most people at my level, those were our heroes, Like, I don't know of a big comic who wouldn't say that Richard Pryor isn't their hero, Yeah,
well, I mean, any comic out there, you're in your 20s, you're doing comedy, you should know the Richard Pryors, you should know the Kinnisons and guys like that. You should.
George, yeah.
It's knowing your craft, honestly. It's just knowing what you do. It's like being an actor and, who's Humphrey Bogart? Who's it? Yeah, I mean, how do you not know who they are? If that's your field, if that's your game, you need to know your game. It's like playing baseball. Oh, well, who's Babe Ruth?
Right. Who's Babe Ruth? It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. George Carlin, they got to know him. They got to know everybody.
Oh God, everyone needs to know George Carlin. Just his humor. I don't think that many people would be able to even kind of do his type of humor.
Right, I agree. And the other thing they have to realize when they go back and they watch these guys, that some of it may not be relevant anymore. Like some of the stuff Richard Pryor was saying was so relevant at the time and so important, so groundbreaking. But, they'll listen to it now and they're like, well, I've heard a million comics say that. Well, the only reason they say that is because he broke that ground,
Right.
And I've had, like last year I was a writer for Fashion Police, and we're on strike now, but it's like I got to work with Joan Rivers for a year, and she's a legend.
Oh,
and
she's
she's
funny.
A great lady.
She's one funny person.
And yeah, and I mean a groundbreaker, especially for female comics, and not just female comics, but comics alone. I mean, this lady hosted the Tonight Show when Johnny wasn't there. She's not just,
Well,
I don't know. She's great. She's a legend.
But the thing is, like, people like that, especially, the older ones, like, there was something on Spike TV. Okay, they had a special. They were roasting Don Rickles. I love Don Rickles. He is hilarious. He is funny.
He's the best.
He is so fun. But it's just his humor. Again, you can't. For someone else to do it, they wouldn't be able to fill his shoes, because that was his personality. Like George Carlin, that was his personality, and that was it.
Right.
And these were the things that were going through his mind. Same thing, with what you do. It's your personality. No one can replace that.
Absolutely.
When you're unique like that.
Some of the best comics are true to themselves. You know,
yeah,
they're just a cartoon of themselves, and I agree with you. Some comics, when you first get in comedy, you don't know what your style is, but usually you hit your stride and you realize they laugh hardest when I'm me, but just a cartoon of me,
Right, and that's what it is, and that's where, because I mean, if you are you, you can never drop the ball with that ever.
Right, ever.
So now moving forward, I want to talk about your TV and film projects that you have going on. So let's go into that.
All right. So I have written for movies over the years, and a lot of people know who the ShamWow guy is. He and I were friends years ago, like early 90s when he was broke, and a lot of people think he's just a spokesman, but he actually owns ShamWow, Slapchop, all that stuff. And he and I had made a movie in the 90s.
That Slapchop is funny, because when he says, "You're going to like my nuts," I just like, oh my God.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah, I think he got that from you. I know he did.
So since, the 90s, I've been writing movies and commercials for him and directing some of his commercials. And actually last week, he and I were in Florida. I had written and produced a commercial for him in Boca Raton, and it's going to be out soon. And we have another one we just did together that I think is on TV right now called Invincible. But anyway, he also made a movie, came out last year, called The Inappropriate Comedy with Adrian Brody, Michelle Rodriguez, myself, a comic named Ari Shafir, Lindsay Lohan, Rob Schneider. It was sort of like Movie 43. It's a skit movie, like Kentucky Fried Movie.
The Kentucky Fried Movie. That I love that movie.
But anyway, I was in it. So was Rebecca, and then I also wrote a part of it. And then, last year, 2 years ago, I don't know, at some point, some producers had come up to me and said, "We want you to write a movie for us and direct it. And it'll star you and Rebecca and some big stars." So we started writing a movie for them, and what happened was a million other movies like it came out. So we scrapped that idea and we came up with this other movie. Some guy had turned in a script called What Happened, and it was about some kids at a party who had woken up and bad things had happened to them. And it was sort of like The Hangover meets Superbad. And I was okay with the script. I liked, where it went, but I didn't like the whole thing. So I sort of gutted the script, and me and Rebecca rewrote it, and it's basically two kids wake up at a party and bad things have happened. One guy wakes up naked next to a woman. He didn't even want to go to the party. He doesn't know if he slept with her. He sneaks out of the room. His fiancée is coming in a couple of hours. So now he and his friend, through flashbacks, have to try to remember what happened at the party. They can only remember so much. So they call their friends over to this house. Those guys tell them, what they can remember of seeing them. And by the end of the movie, they've tied everything together. They figured out what's happened. And then the fiancé shows up and all hell breaks loose. So that's pretty much the movie that I wrote, directed, and starred in. And it also has Jamie Kennedy in it from the Scream movies and Malibu's Most Wanted, and Bobby Lee from Mad TV, Lorenzo Lamas from Renegade and Grease, and Mr. Belding from Saved by the Bell. Dennis Haskins is in it.
Nice.
And a million comedians and great actors like Joe Newman and
Joe Newman, my buddy Joe.
Newman.
She's fantastic.
Yes, you know Joe.
Yep.
Joe Newman.
Yep, she's fantastic.
And there's a new kid that we discovered. It's his first movie, named Albert Manero. And he's sort of a Jonah Hill type, but I think he's funnier. The movie also has Daniel Skelton in it, and Chris Salvatore, and all these other people will know. And it's really fun and funny, and it has heart. You leave the movie laughing, and you're glad that everyone who was good got what they wanted, and everyone who was bad got what they deserved. And so I'm really happy with it.
It's like a comedy feel-good movie, then.
Yeah, it is. It's a feel-good movie. I mean, really, sometimes at the end of, like, The Hangover, you're not super happy. Like, it all got resolved. But this one, you leave smiling and laughing, and I don't know. I'm really glad that I made it. But it comes out, I think, I don't know an exact date, but it's September. It'll be on Redbox, and then it'll go to, you know, Netflix and all that stuff, and hopefully some TV channels too. But so people need to look for Bro, What Happened? Bro, What Happened?
Bro, What Happened? You have to check it out because it sounds like it's going to be funny, funny, funny. And everyone needs funny, especially now. You need funny.
Especially now, that's right. And, you know, here's the thing. When I wrote this movie, I'm a huge fan of comedy movies, and there's 4 things that I love when movies do. One is show bloopers as the credits roll. 2, list every extra that was ever in the movie in the credits. 3, do a where are they now thing at the end of the movie. And 4, I love found footage. So when the movie ends, it ends with where are they now, and then all of a sudden it goes back to the movie. The movie restarts, and someone finds a video camera from the movie, from, you know, the party. And now we watch that found footage, and then the movie's over, credits roll, you see every extra listed, and there's bloopers the entire time. And so the last 15 minutes of the movie is nonstop laughs. It's just great.
And you know what that is? That's smart, because now you're forcing people, and this is what they do in a lot of, you know, great comedy movies, you're forcing people to watch the credits.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, and if you do watch this movie, check out the credits, because there's some fun ones in there too, where we mess around with the credits a little bit. So,
well, that's good. You keep people, you know, engulfed, and that way, you know, it's not just like the regular credits scrolling, where you kind of, when you watch TV and you see the end of the movie, they kind of zzz, you don't even see anything. They zip through it, but you know, but all these guys work hard, even the extras. Everyone works hard on a film, so they should, you know, be recognized for what they do.
I agree, and we had like 200 extras, so there's quite a scroll at the end. I mean, it's still the same length as any other, you know, credit, but you don't even notice it because you're watching, you know, 4 minutes of great bloopers from the movie, so it's great.
Yeah, it's part of the movie. It's an extended. It's like the extras.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I used to go watch the Cannonball Run movies. I couldn't wait for the credits to roll.
I love the Cannonball Run, because actually I remember one of the outtakes with Burt Reynolds, and he just started laughing, and it just you just start laughing because of how he laughs.
At Dom DeLuise.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Dom DeLuise would laugh, and he would laugh, and back and forth, and I could not wait. That was my favorite part of those movies.
Yeah, those were a great series of movies. There's no doubt about that one. But yeah, so you got Bro, What Happened, and do you have anything going on as far as any shows coming up, things like that?
Yeah, Rebecca and I are going to film another movie. We just filmed one that she stars in.
She keeps coming into the show, Rebecca.
I know.
All right.
It's because we're always in movies and stuff together.
But you know what it is? So I think it's fantastic, Dante, that you guys have that relationship. And I'm just busting your chops.
Me too.
You know, it's just great. You know, because it's like Desi and Lucy, but minus the arguments.
Exactly. So we're both in a movie called Deadly Sanctuary that comes out probably in 6 months from now. She's the star of it, and she has red hair in it. Mm-hmm. And then we film a movie this month, I think like the 15th, called Beast Mode. It's a horror comedy. So that one will be out probably a year from now. And then I'm in another movie coming out soon called Rivers 9, where I play a mobster. And it's sort of a heist movie. And then stand-up wise, Rebecca and I are performing in LA a few times this month. And then in the first week of September, we will be at the Silver Legacy Casino in Reno at Catch a Rising Star.
See, as our listeners can tell, that, yeah, you guys are not too busy. You don't have too many things going on.
Not too busy at all. And with all this, guess what? I'm running for city councilman in Los Angeles, District 4, and so I've got that on my plate as well as everything
okay.
else.
Then we need to speak about this before I let you go off the show. You know, tell us what you're doing politically now.
All right, so I'm running, and District 4 is a great district. I think it's the best district, not just because I live in it, but it goes from the LA's Farmers Market to Hancock Park, Silver Lake and Los Feliz and Hollywood, and it's got Griffith Park in it, and the LA Zoo, and Universal Studios, and part of Burbank, and Sherman Oaks, and Laurel Canyon, and Hollywood Hills, and it's just a great district.
And soon it may be its own little state. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right, man. I mean, there's millions of people that live in it, and the guy who has been our city councilman named Tom LaBonge, he's termed out. He served his terms, and he is now leaving. And I've been waiting for that because I've been wanting to run for years, and I knew he was popular, but I was waiting for him to be termed out, and now I am going to run for city councilman.
Nice. And when is this election?
Yeah, well, March and May. You've got the primaries and everything else. So, but I will be making more announcements, and I'll have an official website soon. I'm still in the process of filling out paperwork. Okay. There must be 100 pages that I have to fill out within the next few months.
Yeah, you better get Rebecca working on that.
I know it.
Get to work, Rebecca, now. Don't write that script. Fill out these forms.
Or she better start making more movies while I'm running so that you can pay for this campaign.
Yeah, something's going to have to happen. Hey, maybe you'll get...
sure.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe Hef will step up and help you out.
I hope so. Somebody. I want some big stars behind me donating to this campaign because I really do want to clean up L.A. There's things that need to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
I know Laurel Canyon. Since I moved here, I could tell you every pothole that's still on that street. There's things that need to be fixed and changed around L.A., and I want to be the person to do it. I'm committed to it. I do it locally.
But you would think
for the whole district.
But you would think that they would have that under control.
You'd think
with the taxes.
Also,
with the taxes that you guys are paying over there, it's ridiculous.
It's outrageous. You're right. You'd think that we would have our tax money going towards that stuff, but I promise you, man, it's very strange. I've been in the same house in Hollywood, and they have only repaved our street once, and then they skipped like 5 streets and then repaved another one, and yet the other streets are still, crummy. I don't get what they're doing.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. And then there will be like homeless camps that pop up at bus stops to where people can't even use the bus stop. And until I call the city or the councilman, nothing gets done. And, there's just a lot of things that need to be done. And, besides the serious business of all of it, I also want to beautify LA.
Mm-hmm.
We were just in Monterey and we were in San Diego recently, and it's like even their freeways are beautiful with, ice plant and foliage and all this stuff. And I would just love to beautify LA. And I'd also like to give tax breaks to the movie business because everyone I know is either moving to another state for film, or every time they make a movie, they're going out of state.
Yep, they're coming to New York, they're going to Florida, or they're going to Canada. Or going to Australia, too.
Georgia, Louisiana.
Yep. New Orleans has a lot of tax incentives, so...
Yeah. Why aren't we keeping business here? And I also want to increase tourism. I would love for L.A. to have its own ball-dropping New Year's Eve type ceremony. Why do we have to watch the New York one?
Because New York is the best. I'm sorry.
Look, I'm not against it. I'll still watch the New York one, but I still feel like, why are we missing out on millions and millions of tax,
No, I agree, because they do it in a club in L.A. or something. Or something like that. They don't
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing televised, there's nothing big. We are not getting millions of tourists flocking to Los Angeles for some big event. It's not like we're taking away anything from New York, Very few people from the West Coast fly out there for that.
No, but then you're talking about a 3-hour difference, and they have these events.
Right.
It's not only in New York, they have them all over the world. So...
Well, and what's silly is we usually end up watching the New York one when it's live anyway.
Right.
So we watch it, and then we rewatch it for ourselves 3 hours later.
Right.
And I'd like to bring that to Los Angeles because I think we need that. I think just the money we could be bringing in December, January from tourism would be outrageous.
Well, I think that's a great idea. Because people will be there. It's warm over there, and you'll be able to actually have an impact. Because, in doing that, you're creating jobs, too, and that's important now.
Tons of jobs, tons of money. Plus, our city's number one industry is not entertainment. It's tourists.
Yep.
We bring in over $15 billion every year in tourism money. 1 in 10 people work to serve tourists here. Yeah. And why not create more tourism? Just embrace what we are.
Well, it is what it is. If you're in the service industry and you're involved in tourism and that's how you're making your revenue, then of course you embrace it and try to make as much and monetize it as much as you can. But then it starts at the top and trickles down, because if the politicians aren't allowing it, then how are they doing anything good for the people that they represent? If they're not doing anything positive to generate revenue and make the community better, then you're not doing right, by your constituents. You're not doing right by the people.
And I'm not upset with how our city's run, but the main concern is the upkeep of the landmarks that we have. And I think that's great, but I think we need to start thinking out of the box and start thinking about how else we can bring tourists back, or keep them coming back, or clean up our city to where people don't go, it's too dirty for me. I was afraid. There were homeless people that took over bus stops.
Yeah. They should clean up, especially in West Hollywood. They should clean up all those the sidewalks and the stores, because you walk down, some of those things are kind of cruddy, and that kind of bugs me a little bit when I'm out there.
Now, where are you talking about?
When you get the stars, when you're.
Oh yeah. So you're saying in Hollywood? You're right.
Yeah, West Hollywood.
In Hollywood.
Yeah.
But no, not West Hollywood.
No.
West Hollywood to me is the cleanest part of LA.
Then Hollywood.
There is not. Yeah, it's Hollywood, because West Hollywood. That's a great model. When people go to West Hollywood, there's no trash. They have a giant Halloween celebration. The police are out in force, but not arresting every third person. It's sort of like Mardi Gras, and their city could not be more beautiful, and it's got art in the middle of the streets. West Hollywood is a great model for the rest of our city.
And then maybe when you
But you're right, Hollywood Boulevard needs to clean up.
Yeah, that definitely needs clean up. Especially you buy the Kodak Center and walk going down. Yeah, they have to clean that up, because sometimes people are. They want to be around there, but then, whenever I'm there, they get you see people that are afraid that are tourists. They're afraid to go down too far.
Yeah, I'd also like to clean up a lot of those, we have these characters that dress up like Spider-Man and stuff like that. I would like to have them all licensed, and I don't think that they are right now, and it's a little scary because a lot of them are rude to the tourists. I've seen some of these guys who try to sell CDs who yell at tourists or grab them and pull them over, and then when the cops show up, they sort of scatter, but then they're right back at it, and I want something done about that.
Well, you know what, Dante, I hope that, your campaign goes well, and I hope that they put you into office, because, there's nothing better than to have someone native of, in that area that knows from the ground up what should happen. That's not a politician. You're not a career politician, so that actually makes it better. That makes it better, because now you're like the people's choice.
Right. I'm not doing it because I want to be in office 4 years from now. I don't even know if I want to be in office 4 years from now. I'm doing it because I just want to fix where I live.
Right. You want to invoke some type of change, and then when you're done, leave a legacy of change, which is fantastic.
Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
So now, I think I wanted to touch on that because you brought it up at the end, and I wasn't aware of that, but now I am. So, hopefully we'll be able to bring you back on as your campaign starts moving forward, and then we can bring you back on.
I would love it.
Yeah, we can just talk about the politics part of it, kind of politics, but not just more of the things that you have in mind. But I want to thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for sharing your story with us. I think it's amazing, and I know you're gonna have a lot of great things.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know you're going to have a lot of great things going on in your career between you and Rebecca. See, I got to mention it because she's
Rebecca coaching.
Yeah, she's a part of this show, man.
And you're a great interviewer, by the way.
Well,
really.
thank you.
I do a lot of interviews, and I can't wait to get off the phone. And with you, I feel like I'm talking to a friend.
Well, that's what it is, because when you come on my show, it's like home. Yeah, and that's the way I like it, because there's no canned questions. There's none of that, we're going to ask you this, Dante, and we're going to try to trick some information out of you. This is the story of your life. This is the story of your journey, and that's what it's all about. And I'm happy that you and Rebecca have that unity. That's fantastic, man, because a lot of people don't have that.
Thanks, friend.
Yeah, you got it. Actually, I want to get her on, too, at some point, because I know her story is going to be interesting. I know her when she comes on the show, I know that's going to be the Dante show, so I kind of need to get her on here.
It'll be a journey. She has quite a life story.
Yeah, and I got to hear that stuff. But I want our listeners to make sure you go check out Bro What Happened when it shows up on Redbox, or if you see it on Netflix and things like that, check it out. I'm sure it's going to be funny.
Put it in your queue right now. I think you can do it this week. Put it in your queue on Netflix.
Okay, put it in your queue on Netflix, Bro What Happened, and support comedy. You have a lot of great comics out there. Go to the Improv. Go here. Go there. You have a local comedy place by you. Go there. Support these guys that are coming up because they need that support, because you do have the next generation of great comics, maybe a legend in your presence that may be performing and just needs that support. And that's something that Dante he's been paying it forward, and you have been, and with the younger guys coming up. So that's always a fantastic thing. But again, Dante, thank you so much. And
thank you.
You got it. And for our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And we'll be back with you on the UCW radio show for another great segment.
Initiating shutdown sequence.
You're listening to UCW Radio. In your face.
What is your major malfunction?
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Ladies and gentlemen, my mother thanks you. My father thanks you, my sister thanks you, and I thank you.